party persons. It's Steve. Yeah, he does this sometimes. And he's got Kevin. We've never done this before. I know. Do the two of them hate each other or what? Do they just do the main show every week because they got it? No, it's fine. It's just weird scheduling issues and just whatever else. So if you had spring 2022 for when does Steve and Kevin finally do a fucking show, congratulations, you won the pool. Don't forget to tip your waitresses.
No, I don't know if you might get in trouble for party persons. I'm pretty sure when I tried using party people when Stockton and I did a show last year, Andre said something about both suing the pants literally off of me and then tracking me down and killing me. So
I've used all kinds of things for the Pokemon episodes and I didn't get yelled at. Maybe it's because Vin was on.
Okay. It must be an American luxury to be able to.
Or Vin was just my good luck charm. I don't know, but hey, you all got big old white eyeballs with tiny little dots on them. We're talking about the Simpsons today. You know that show that if you've seen before, you might go, wait, did Steve just make a Simpsons reference in there? And no one's going to point that out. Is Andre ever going to just kick Steve off the show for slipping in all these Simpsons references? Well, too bad. We're doing a show about it now. And Andre can't do a thing about it. Actually, it was his idea. So I don't know who do you yell at? Let us know in the comments who you yell at.
Well, and I think it's worth noting you're definitely the Simpsons expert here. I loved the Simpsons growing up, but I haven't stuck with it near as much as you have. And I always give Steve props. I'm positive that there's a physical Rolodex in his brain of Simpson references for any possible circumstance that may come up in life at any time. So this will be starring Steve with Kevin as the sidekick.
Well, it was on syndication forever. Well, still is on syndication forever. And I've got the DVDs and, Frinkiac helps. So whenever literally anyone brings something up, I can just slap the picture with the caption in there and Kevin can go, ha ha, and Andre can go, fuck you, Steve. Please stop.
I'll be the Fallout Boy to your Radioactive Man tonight.
Well, let's go up and at 'em for our top 5 episodes, but maybe not top 5, but 5 really great ones, because for a show that's on for as long as this one has, and yes, it's been on for a long time. Ha ha ha! We know. How would you pick what your favorite episodes are, Kevin?
I really struggled. So in preparation for this, I went through Disney Plus and looked at, specifically, mostly at the first 12 seasons to try. And I really had a hard time. So yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily these are set in stone my top 5 favorites, because I think that could kind of change based on mood. But overall, elements that I kind of felt like generally I appreciate about the show. Specifically, I really like episodes that I find relatable, especially when I was a kid. So ones from Bart and Lisa's perspective, where, it's just kind of like normal kid things around the community, right? The Simpsons get a pool, not that we had a pool growing up, but just some of these kind of like kid experiences you may have that I could live vicariously through the Simpsons.
You mean you were never the queen of summertime?
I was not the queen of summertime as far as I know.
No, that's too bad.
I realized that I think I place a lot of importance on kind of just like one-off gags out of the episodes that really stuck out to me, or just, specific scenes, because those are what really endeared in my memory years later.
You got 1 or 2 for us right now?
You know what? I think I'll save. I've got my absolute top favorite individual gag. So I'll save that for the list here.
That's fair. I've been watching the show forever now. Well, not forever. Not in 1989 when I was, long enough where I've absorbed it all. And because of, a lot of what it was and what it isn't has changed, but also somehow hasn't through the years. I kind of just tried to pick a list of 5 of the most Simpsons episodes possible. Something where, if aliens came, I would be able to like, hey, and they wanted to rip it off. Hey, here's 5. Start with these. just something of a primer for, all three of you that haven't seen The Simpsons yet.
Further to that, do you think was there any episodes that you would have picked more as personal favorites but didn't make your list because they didn't encapsulate, they weren't Simpsons-esque enough?
Not necessarily that they weren't Simpsons-esque, but by the time I was done, I was surprised that I didn't have any Sideshow Bob episodes on here. Like if we made it to 10, there would have been at least 2, I'm sure, and even higher on the list for a fact.
Well, I'm really interested too with your first pick, because I think out of any of the ones that we selected, that to me stuck out as the least Simpsons-esque one. So I'm curious.
Is this you're itching to get started, are you, Kevin?
See, I'm not gonna. Well, I don't want to. I'm not itching to pick apart your rationale here, but I just was, when you were talking about, ones that are representative of the series as a whole, I'm kind of curious as to your take on this episode from that aspect.
Okay, so Kevin, he's picking on me. Simpsons was only good up to season 12. He's only a less bit snooty than all of you. Like, it stopped being good after season 5, and I did a lot of thinking. And just because I got to be different and piss off as many of you as possible, I picked something from the last season, and that is A Serious Flanders, the 6th episode of the 33rd season. It's a very rare 2-parter, and as we all know, they don't do a whole lot of those. The very famous 2-part episode, Who Shot Mr. Burns? The production notes are legendary. They did a murder mystery. They split it across 2 seasons, and there was an actual answer you were able to deduce. It was Maggie, Kevin. It was Maggie that shot Mr. Burns. It was
Maggie.
Yeah. MS. Anyway, all that was legendary, but I honestly feel like after watching this a few more times in the past year, the attempt here to do the faux artsy streaming show that's cropped up a lot lately, mostly Fargo, almost exclusively Fargo, is actually better than this. I'm not going to run through all of the plots. We can't, because, come on, guys, it's a comedy. Just watch this show. They're all 20 minutes each. Come on.
But it is admittedly relatively complex, especially for an animated comedy show.
I mean, it's not that overly complicated. I think they make fun of how overly complicated something like Fargo is. Flanders gets in trouble with a debt collector, played by Brian Cox. He's the overly prideful type. I must collect my debts. And they play up all the Simpsons characteristics. If you thought Flanders was ridiculous before, he's like, oh, should I feel proud about this? And they just play it to the hilt. And then, all the other bizarre to the hilt Netflix morality. Like, they have the Ned Sr. story. He's like the good cop that gives the junkie a few bucks to buy bread. And the way the debt collector just murders Fat Tony and makes him into a donut because symbolism that they need to force onto the audience, and the way they do the whole speaking gags, what they do is like, oh no, why are you frying my head? Ah, are you making me into a donut? What are you trying to say? And then, like, just licensed soundtracks for the heck of it. Like, how come we never want to play what I listen to? Then, other just fun gags like the fake shows in the beginning. I don't want to go through it all, because I know, even though a lot of people would feel like the past year has been great, some people would be like, I don't know, I still would rather just stare at the wall than watch The Simpsons at 8 o'clock on Sunday. I feel like people need to turn it on. But Kevin still thinks he wouldn't do so unless I made him do it for this show.
See, no, I don't. I guess, yeah, I would rather watch The Simpsons newer seasons than a lot of things. I guess I'm not that snooty about it, and I'm probably just holding it up to an unfair standard. And maybe, admittedly, some of it's nostalgia talking, but definitely my default, is usually probably somewhere between seasons 4 and 10 if I'm just casually looking for some Simpsons to watch. So this is a good exercise for you to push me out of my comfort zone. But why this one? Was it, did you just kind of appreciate how it was layered and that they did do something different, or did you just found it, like, from a comedy perspective better than what the newer seasons are usually offering?
Some of that, and I feel like they've spent a good chunk of the past decade like trying to build to this. Like they spent a good long while realizing, okay, we can't be seasons 5 to 8 anymore, so they're trying to be more artsy or more heartfelt sometimes, and I felt like this was the best attempt at that so far.
It was definitely an interesting watch, and there were some good, one-liners out of there. I really appreciated Sideshow Mel when his wife was getting busy with Ned, and then Ned ran off. He said, "Oh, another Craigslist winner," and then also Homer's time in the drunk rink near the start was pretty good. So I definitely didn't poo-poo this. Maybe I didn't. I'm not necessarily a reformed season 33 fan over it, but it was worth watching for sure.
What's your number 5 pick then, Smarty Pants?
Well, I'm gonna be pompous and drag us back to season 6, specifically episode 24, Lemon of Troy. And what I was talking about at the start, right? You know, these kind of like down to earth, the kids adventuring around town. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It really resonated with me, and that's something that I kind of enjoy outside of The Simpsons as well. Disney's Recess, I really liked as a kid. I think kind of for the same reason.
I haven't seen a Recess in forever, Kevin.
I've watched Recess within the past 24 hours. So
I was going to say that's got to be on Disney Plus.
It's definitely on Disney Plus, yeah, and it's still my kids that are 6 and 9 still really like Recess, so it's timeless. But I with Lemon of Troy, right, the kind of like town rivalry with the kids on the other side of town that really like hits that vibe. Especially, I really like there's that parallel between Springfield and the Shelbyville villagers, right? Like Bart's kind of got his alter ego from Shelbyville. Homer does. Milhouse meets another kid named Milhouse, which they bond over their shared names, which I found delightful. A few moments that I really liked out of that one, because the whole thing with Shelbyville and Springfield, why they initially split, is because Shelbyville wanted to marry their attractive cousins, right? So they said, why would we want to marry our own cousins? Because they're so attractive. Later,
well, I won't live in a town that will rob the men of the right to marry their own cousins.
Later in the show, Bart, after he tries to use spray paint cans, shooting him at the ground to use as a jetpack, he tricks the Shelbyville kids by saying, "Hey, look, someone's attractive cousin," and of course, they were all about it. And one other, I really like Martin's line out of this episode. Put a leaf of sage in your boots all day, and a spicy scent is your reward. I found it was just really like nails kind of that humor around that season 6 time.
I like the unfortunate Nelson Martin pair up they have during that time. They got him trying to get the dirt on some on a lemonade stand. It's country time lemonade. There hasn't been anything close to a real lemon in it. And then the big brother comes out and he's like, "Oh, help me, burly protector." And he doesn't come out until he says it again, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, they're making me do this."
Martin definitely had this was a great Martin episode specifically.
I do. It's not just the kids and the dad there, although I do appreciate that he runs the impound lot as opposed to just working there. Although I will have to point out, yes, this is where the lemon posting comes from. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Kevin, where people will slap on that face where the Shelbyville dad's like posturing, "All this talk's making me hungry," and he just takes a big bite of the lemon and puckers up. There's a subculture online it's died out recently that'll Photoshop the puckering up face on the other Simpsons pictures.
Oh yeah, yep, I've seen that.
Yeah, that we latch on to not the things we would think to latch on to as a group, Kevin. All right. I know we had some words about this before the show. I thought Kevin was going to agree with me some more, but my choice for number 4 here. Treehouse of Horror 5, Season 6, Episode 6. Now, I like me some Halloween shows, and this one, it was a show so violent, we had to watch the 1947 Glenn Ford classic 200 Miles to Oregon instead. No, it's not a real movie. I looked this up years later after I got the DVDs. They got stock footage of another movie. I forget which right now to show at the beginning of that. I'm like, there's no way it's real. No, it's not. I would litter a whole list with these if I could get away with it. You know, if you people want a top 5 episode without Kevin, you know, let me know. Because you know, he's got some words about this later. But you got The Shining, and that's probably the best single parody of a movie they've ever done. Obviously, The Shining, and it hits all the right notes without wasting a second. They go to the mountain, and Mr. Burns immediately snips the power. Sir, I think doing this and taking away cutting the power, taking away the beard made your last caretakers go crazy. Well, I'll tell you what, we come back and they're all slaughtered, I'll get you a Coke. And you got Mo as Floyd the bartender is like, so yeah, we'll get you a beer, I just need your soul. And then while we're sitting in the closet eating snacks, Homer, me and the ghouls here, we're a little worried that the project isn't moving along according to schedule. Can't talk either. And it's like, for the light, they just open the door and there's Dracula and Frankenstein. They're all just dragging him in to make sure he's axing the door open. And it's about the way you do with the chase you expect outside. Willie gets an axe into the back, and they just all freeze solid as the Tony Awards come on, which, you know, of course, would, as a New Yorker, yes, it raises my urge to kill every time those come on too. So Homer had the right idea there. You got Time and Punishment with where he builds the toaster, and he ends up in all the different futures, and you know, he's warned by Grandpa, and in the wedding tux in the flashback, don't mess with anything if you go back in time. And we go to 1984 with Flanders is in charge, and the one where the future is perfect, but there's no donuts, but it rains donuts, but they don't know it's them. Until he just settles on the one with the lizard tongues. And then it's I don't know. I guess you can never make this day. Nightmare Cafeteria. I wrote down it's the pasteurized cheese product to actual horror cheese, because they just kill kids and no one cares, and then they eat them to this is in the 90s to take care of the overcrowding and detention problem they seem to have, but suddenly everything becomes a problem, so they turn Jimbo into burgers, and they suddenly have a Oktoberfest theme when they kill the Uter, the Florida exchange student with Uterbraten.
This one was surprising to me in retrospect, and I haven't gone back and watched the Treehouse of Horrors that much lately, but this, especially that episode, you know, seemed darker than I remembered the Treehouse of Horrors in general. Was this the kind of the darkest one, would you say?
It's certainly up there. There is always at least one pretty dark segment for a while before they were all kind of on the goofier side. Although there's a few in fairly recent years that were just kind of more for shock value.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know if they knew how to end any of these, because they back the kids up into a meat grinder. Milhouse falls in, but then the two of them wake up. But then there's a fog that turns them inside out, and they sing one from a chorus line, you know, because I don't think anyone knew how to end this. I wouldn't have known how to end that either.
Well, yeah, I mean, when the whole plot is centered around slaughtering and eating children, that's probably not going to just come to a natural conclusion.
I just like when Marge looks at the kids when they're trying to tell her, you know, it's like an actual horror movie that no one believes the kids. There's no way they're cooking up but they are. If they're really doing that, you go look them right in the eye and say, "Don't eat me." But Mom,
Parent of the Year.
Speaking of Parent of the Year, you have a pretty keen one for 4 in that regard.
Yeah, Itchy and Scratchy the Movie, Season 4, Episode 6. And that's the second one that I've got on here that really like nails that kid experience vibe. You know, the Itchy and Scratchy movie is coming out, and this is like the defining entertainment experience of their generation. and Bart does something so heinous that he's forced as a punishment to miss out on it, as we come to find, for most of his entire life. And that's just I guess relatable, even as far as a movie is coming out, being a kid and being so excited to see it, and just the idea that he was restricted from that. Again, too, we do find out later that when he is a growing up, which it's always kind of a treat to see the Simpsons kids growing up. Sometimes it's done better than others, and I think this was one of the best implementations. But eventually Homer takes adult Bart to see the movie, so that was a lot of fun.
I love the ending of this one in particular, just because, you see the fairly grimmish future, because, it's got to be somewhat apocalyptic, no matter in the 90s when we're guessing what the future is. And they're both looking at the marquee. It's like and they're, it's the rerun of the Itchy and Scratchy movie. Oh, come on, Dad. What do you say? Oh, what the heck? I guess you learned your lesson. One Chief Justice, one Senior, one Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I got this one, so that'll be $104. Oh.
And I think they needed that. They needed to have that satisfying conclusion, because I would have been genuinely sad for Bart if he never got to see the Itchy and Scratchy movie.
Well, it was a satisfying build-up too. Yeah, even in the beginning when they're winding up to go to the parent-teacher conference. Okay, I go to these parent-teacher conferences, but if you're good, you'll get pizza. What if we're bad? And you'll get poison. What if one of us is good and one of us is bad? Poison pizza. No, I'm not making 2 trips.
As far as one-off gags for me for this episode, when Abe was caught stealing the dentures at the nursing home, well, if it isn't the tooth fairy, really got me.
Jasper's a gem. The thing that actually sets off the whole Bart's punishment forever business is when he's supposed to be watching Maggie, but she somehow drives off with the car, and Wiggum's on the job. Oh, look, there's a baby driving a car, and there's a dog driving a bus. Then the one other punishment along the way where Bart's just trying to distract Homer. He's like smashing mustard packets in the living room for no reason, but he uses the ice cream truck to throw him off. I was supposed to be telling you something. I forgot what. You were telling me the story about how you got out of jury duty. Oh, yeah. The trick is to say you're biased against all races. But, I guess he doesn't do jury duty. And then my next choice at all, you only move twice. Yes, I picked I have some real gems here. Don't worry. I didn't just pick gimmicky episodes for everyone at home. We can put down the pitchforks now. That's all the way in season 8. And, everyone should already know what this is, but this is where Homer takes the job in Cypress Creek and he works for Hank Scorpio, the supervillain. And, lots of episodes do the Simpsons need to go visit somewhere or move somewhere for an episode, and everything corrects itself before the credits roll. And, these are all fun, well, not all of them, but, most of them are fun because we all get to see the Simpsons in a different environment. But it's just that the whole pitch to go there is ridiculous in the first place. Like they're literally trying to scoop Smithers off the street in the beginning, and he turns them down. So they go for the next best guy, which to them is Homer, and they give him the videotape, and then they just like show like all this nonsense with 90s visual effects where they like, someone should make a town that works. Someone did. they're getting rid of that crack alley and putting in like an ice cream parlor and a hobo and putting in a mailbox. And they all go there, and it really is this perfect town. They have a little store for everything. Where they even buy Tom Landry's hat. Where only guys with big salaries like him can buy a hat like that. He's a guy like him, so of course he buys the hat, and he uses it to motivate his team. Can you guys work a little faster? Sure we can, Mr. Simpson. Now remember, I need this death ray up and running by the end of the week. You got it, Mr. Scorpio. But it's just the conflict comes into play, not with Scorpio, but with everyone else, how they have problems. Bart's sent to the special class, which one of the kids is Canadian. I'm sorry, Kevin. Were you offended by that?
Highly offended. I'm surprised that's even allowed to air in
I'm
Canada.
from Canada, and they say I'm a little slow, eh? Lisa's allergic to everything, and since everything cleans itself in the house, Marge is, she just doesn't know what to do herself, so she's drinking the wine, and they play the dun, 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 like that. They play for more drastic situations, and and they play it again when she moves on to a second glass of wine.
I did feel bad for Homer in this one because he really was thriving at that new job.
Like, I mean, the whole thing with the terrorist attacks going off without a hitch. He's threatening the UN. He's like, I have the doomsday device. Send me the gold or I'll blow up my bridge. Maybe it collapsed on its own. I want to take a chance. How come we never take a chance? And then at the end, it's just the end of another action movie. You got all these army guys, and he's got all these Russian gymnastics ladies like jumping and flipping around, like trying to get people out of there. Like, sorry, I need to quit. Oh, that's too bad. Send him home. We'll go bowling. Look, if that's really how you feel, it is. Well, we'll miss you.
Scorpio really was the highlight of this episode too. That he was so evil and still so likable.
I mean, he tries to make good on his promise. At the onset, he says he wants the Dallas Cowboys, and he can't necessarily give them to him. But since he takes over the East Coast at the end, he hooks him up with the Denver Broncos.
Which nobody was too impressed about.
No, Marge was very impressed with it. What's wrong with the Denver Broncos? You just don't understand football, Marge.
I will say this episode, when Steve did his list before me, and if there was an episode Steve had selected that would have hit my list, if he didn't, that definitely would have been it. That one ranks pretty highly for me as well.
I mean, this is good. How can you hate this one? Because I don't know. Some people cap off their favorite seasons at 7, and I'm like, what's wrong with you people?
Well, now I feel like I'm going to need to go on the defense, because my next pick was from season 10, and I feel like Mr. Steven, this was the one where he was like, well, why Lord of the Dance, season 10, episode 1. Now, admittedly, I don't feel like this one is entirely strong all around, because Lisa's plotline doesn't really do it for me. So this one was kind of hard to place on the list. But just the pure concept that Homer pulls Bart out of school to work on a scheme selling grease is just excellent. And it strikes a good balance between funny and stupid that I really liked. And then this all culminates at the end of the episode, where once Homer, uses all of Marge's bacon to try and get grease, and gets 63 cents or something from $30 of bacon, he realizes that the school cafeteria grease hoard is what they really need to do. So while Lisa's running the school dance, Homer and Bart break in to have a grease heist, where Willie happens to be in there bathing with Ajax, which is, admittedly maybe the best moment in the entire episode. Freaks out because that's his retirement grease. Chases Homer through the vents all greased up before the grease backs up and explodes in the entire school. I mean, just explaining it, how can that not be one of the best episodes?
I love how they try to bluff their way with Willie. We're the exchange students from Scotland. I'm from Scotland. Where you hail from? North Killtown. Oh, hey, I'm from North Killtown. Do you know Angus MacLeod? Hey, wait a minute. There's no Angus MacLeod in North Killtown. Nah, don't be daft. And then he realizes what's going on. And then I do like how he's trying to rationalize that they did make money off the bacon grease. It's like, all right, 49 cents off 30 pounds of bacon. Yeah, but the bacon costs $30, and I make my money through grease. What's the problem? I also love that the muscly goons have the grease and shovel racket. Like, it's our grease. Like, it's our grease now. That's my shovel. We also run the shovel ads. It literally says Acme Grease and Shovel on the back of the truck. I mean, all that aside, I do like, I as much as I like this episode, it is not as strong to me as other Homer get-rich-quick scheme episodes, including one that follows this very format, and they do lampshade this to its credit, like when Marge tries to encourage him toward the end. How about an emu farm? You can do emus. but there was Lisa's Rival, where I feel like this was a better version of this same story idea, where Lisa has another girl move in, and I think she even makes a cameo in this episode. But we all more remember the B plot of that one, where he happens upon a big mound of sugar, and he takes that on the house, and he goes crazy over that. Do you remember this one?
I do remember this one.
And he's trying to sell the sugar for like $3 a bag, even though it's 85 cents in 1990. Whatever money, until bees show up. And I don't know, between the lunacy of that and the bees, and first we get the sugar, then we get the women, we make the money. And then that ridiculous Homer, I don't know, I just feel like that's a better one. But I don't know, it's fine. Lots of people would poo-poo Lard of the Dance more than me. I'm just surprised to see it here. That's all.
I respect your opinion. Maybe naturally I just find grease funnier than sugar.
I mean, it's great when they tried walking into Krusty Burger and he's thinking he needs to scrape the grease off of the teenager's head behind the counter. My God, you're greasy. Mr. Sanderson, help. Guys, all that grease caused a mini stroke, but I suddenly remembered what I put down for number 2. It's Homie the Clown. Now, I remember a long time ago, Kevin was going through some of these haphazardly with his son. He's like, Steve, what's a good Simpsons episode? And I had to think about it for a few minutes. And I landed on this one. It's just a lot of dumb Simpsons fun. You start off with sign gags. They literally force you to sit through sign gags, which, blink and you miss them, with New Billboard Day, which really helps that they force you with when one of the signs is, this year, give her English muffins. And then there's one for barbecue sauce. And then finally the one for Clown College, which sets off the rest of the events of the episode. I did everything the sign told me to. I'm not going to that Clown College, though, until he goes home and he just starts hallucinating it everywhere, including at work, where everyone's on fire and he just sees clowns. Like, I won't let you people hold me back anymore. I'm going to Clown College. Well, I don't think anyone expected him to say that. And then, of course, he does go to Clown College. Okay, say the funny names. Here's the rich dowager. Throw a pie in her face. No one's good enough to do the loop-de-loop. There's no way we're going to have to do this at the end of the episode. And then since, all the checks cleared, everyone graduates, and Homer tries to get out of the, joy buzzer handshake with the diploma, but, that doesn't work, so he gets tackled over that. Cue Homer being, playing Krusty the Clown at kids' parties, but other people mistaking him for Krusty because, come on, it's the same. Everyone pretty much sees it's the same character, but, traced over to be Krusty. They're playing on that here. It's like, you're going to give me free stuff because you think, I am Krusty the Clown? But and it all bites him in the ass later with when he owes the mafia money for profits from the Clown College at the it's been one of my favorite scenes to quote for years with friends, the betting against the Harlem Globetrotters. I thought the Generals were due. He's spinning the basketball on his finger. Just take it. He's using a ladder for and then at the end, when Krusty just tries to do right, and otherwise he's next, but then they make him go through the loop and be like, "Okay, we'll kill you, but you still owe the money." It's only $48 that they made from the Clown College that he bet. I don't know. It's just so. I just felt like you can only write that at this time, it's just near perfect for me.
This one definitely feels like Simpsons in their prime.
I mean, you have to see it for yourself. I mean, what do you, and if you're listening to this, you probably have. What do you need to listen to me for? What do you got for number 2 there?
Number two, back to season 9, episode 14, The Joy of Sex. This one I really like specifically because The Simpsons was never, even for the time, as much about, social commentary as much as they were just entertainment for cartoons. But this one, they really like struck a good balance between social commentary and entertainment. They also really utilized the ensemble cast well in this one. So essentially the plot is Homer gets eventually sucked into a cult along with most of the rest of the town. And there's a scene where they're putting on a film talking about how to reach salvation through this cult. And they're very clear that anybody can leave at any time. Then as soon as anybody wants to leave and they just get up, then they shine a giant spotlight on them and guilt them into staying. This one, I think there was just a lot of really good specific moments. One of my favorites, Barney, when he finds the liver laying on the ground right next to him while he's sitting at Moe's at the bar and just assumes that it fell right out of him. What is he says something, you're not getting away that easy, little guy, or something like that. This one also has that scene where Mr. Burns decides that he's the new god and he gets up on the giant building. It's almost like a Batman the Animated Series scene where he's kind of declaring himself, and then he gets his giant muscly blow up suit. It turns out to be very, very flammable. And I also really like when so Marge, she's the only one that keeps a level head, so she's got to try and trick the kids into getting out of the cult. So her and Reverend Lovejoy convince them that if they leave the cult, they'll get hover bikes, which of course aren't real hover bikes. They're just bikes on strings. And then I don't know if this even works in real life, but they're doing something to make a sound effect for the hover bikes by like blowing through plastic through a comb. Is that a real thing?
I've never tried it.
Make that up.
I just love when they're trying to re-indoctrinate the kids. So who do you love? Hover bikes. Yeah, close enough.
And then eventually when the leader is making his getaway, when everybody starts getting suspicious, he comes out of there and he actually is in like a UFO or a spaceship that he was going to.
They improvise a UFO, yeah, but it's just a bicycle with the same trick that they use for
yeah, he just winds up, as soon as it blows apart, you find out that he's also blowing through the paper through a comb to make the hover effect.
And he just lands into Cletus's yard. He's like, "Do you happen to need a messiah?" "No, but I'll take them sacks of money off of you." No, I really like this episode a lot. It starts off at the airport, but yeah, just the whole cult thing is funny because Homer's too stupid to be indoctrinated in the way a cult would indoctrinate somebody. He can't pay attention to the movie. Because he's not impressed by any of it. He stops paying attention 20 minutes in. So the cop was in on it from the beginning. There's nothing like that in the movie. He's too comfortable with himself to be insulted by his peers, so the shame circle doesn't work. And then they try to feed him all resistance gruel, but Homer's eating everyone else's bowls, so that doesn't work either. And the only thing that gets him in the end is a improvised version of the chant of their leader chant, which is just the Batman song. No, leader, leader. Me and a friend like to do the exchange from the beginning too. We hope to see you at our free weekend. So this free weekend, how much does it cost? It's free. And I see. And when is it? It's this weekend. Okay. And how much does it cost? It's free. Okay, and how much is this free? And when is this free weekend? It's this week, and we'll keep this up for however long we can stand it. I also like how quickly the movementarians just take over the town. Like Channel 6 is immediately sued for slander. The blue-haired lawyer makes him write a check for bad-mouthing the leader. What was that? I said, Barney the dinosaur gets a shift in programming. He loves it. We're the leader's family. And then they restock the fire department with lawyers. This is a hidden gem of an episode. No one talks about this one. I'm glad you dug it up for everyone else. But yeah, I'm going for a sappy choice like Kevin for number one. Home Sweet Home Diddly Dum Doodly. Bear with me on this one, Kevin, because I feel a lot like you. What keeps our collective ass to the seat, or whatever, looking at the screen for years long after its time in the sun is set, my opinion is how there's family dynamic, or it still feels a bit realish, or that bit of wholesomeness despite the outlandish plots. It's probably why we subconsciously like King of the Hill more now than we did when it was on the air, and also why we like Bob's Burgers all the way to season 13 now, and a movie, and also why so many more of us are just staring into the void, hoping Family Guy will go away. Please, for the love of God, you were funny for a while, but please stop, Family Guy. Anyway, I feel like this is about the best example that we can get to without being especially preachy and still being The Simpsons. It's a series of unfortunate coincidences. The Homer gets a spa day from Marge, but Bart gets lice from Milhouse's monkey that was hiding in a longer burger basket or something, and they were throwing a dodgeball at Lisa, so she bites her tongue, and they throw her shoes over the thing, so they start thinking she's neglected, and they have to call in CPS to at least have a look. And since everything's all built up from them going to the spa day, they're like, they gotta take away the kids and and put them in a foster home. And where do you put them? The Flanders house, because why invent more characters? And just because it's funny, just stick them next door right to where they are. I don't know. You got Nachos Flanders style and bombardment with Bible questions, and the lecture they're doing at the center to get their kids back. Garbage goes in a garbage can. Don't just throw it out the window. Then the other family dynamics is like, don't yell. It's like, I love you, Paul. I love you, Cletus. I've never been so embarrassed all my life. But there's the heartfelt stuff along the way too. Like, they legitimately miss the kids, and the kids legitimately miss them. They use the Flanders news press to write the Simpsons kids miss parents on the other side of the Todd Smells headline on the thing, and leave it at their door. It's touching. It's cute. It all comes to a head when Flanders decides to overstep his boundaries and decides he needs to baptize the children for some reason, complete with air horn that plays Hallelujah. And there's like this high speed car chase where after they go to the thing, after they complete the class and they go to the lake, and Homer literally dives like he's taking a bullet, but it's just dripping water onto Bart, and they're also touched. And then Maggie chooses Marge, and that whole note, come to mom, and all that. It's, I don't know.
That was pretty touching.
I mean,
although admittedly, before Marge showed up, when Maggie was looking at Homer and Bart and Lisa, that family looked pretty haggard in comparison to the Flanderses.
Yeah, it's touching. And then we all had a nice rest of the season after that, and nothing bad ever happened to the Simpsons ever again. The end.
I really like this one too. The gag where, because this is where they had, Homer was still stupid, but just like the right kind of stupid when they're in court and they bring up Margaret Simpson. And he's like, who the hell is that?
He means Maggie. She means Maggie. Marge isn't much more helpful either. One mother to another. Actually, I don't have children. Oh.
That was, I do agree. That one, that definitely was a good one that demonstrates how they hit their stride when they're, they focus on the little bit more heartwarming episodes, and it was still funny without beating you over the head with it as well. My number one favorite of all time, season 8, episode 8, Hurricane Nettie. First of all, Ned is one of my favorite ensemble characters in the show overall, and they use him very well in different situations. They kind of like portray him radically different than he normally is portrayed. For example, Stupid Sexy Flanders. So I like when they kind of like take Ned's character and toy with it. What really sets the this episode apart is when Ned has the massive meltdown after the community has got together to rebuild his home that was ripped apart by a hurricane. And they do a really good job just showing him gradually becoming more and more frustrated, and he's trying so hard to hold it together. And then all of a sudden it just completely goes off, and he is fucking scathing to everybody that he talks to, right? He's got some really good lines in that rant. It reminds me of on Christmas Vacation, Clark Griswold's rant about his boss when he doesn't get his Christmas bonus. It's very in the same vein. He's got some lines about Chief Wiggum being the long, flabby arm of the law. Krusty pipes up and he says, "Oh, the only one of you that doesn't make me laugh." He just gets real savage.
What hits me years later is that he even lays into the kids, because Lisa pipes up and he's like, "Oh, if it isn't little Lisa Simpson, the answer to the questions Springfield never asked." And Bart, being a good big brother for once in his life, he's like, "Hey, back off, man." "Oh, okay, man. When I have a cow." "Here's a catchphrase you should learn for when you're older. Hey, buddy, got a quarter?" And I'm like, I'm sitting here like now, I'm like, that is absolutely brutal to do to kids. That, even for this show, that's raw.
Even digs into Marge, and Marge is probably nicer to him than anybody.
And then there was that other, and then, oh yeah, Lenny, "I don't know who you are, but I'm sure you're a jerk." I just got here.
I do want to talk about too. So you asked earlier about some of my favorite like individual gags, and my all-time favorite moment from the entire series is on this episode. So before Ned has the meltdown, he's coming in and he's checking out the house that the community rebuilt for him, and he starts finding all of these, you know, fairly obvious problems. And then they go upstairs, kind of like, "Oh, there's definitely something wrong with this hallway." And he looks down the hall and the door opens, and the entire door is encompassed by Barney's face, which you realize is just, it's not a hall at all. It's just from the perspective. And then Barney goes, "Come on in. It's your master bedroom." I found that, and I remember finding that very funny as a kid, and then actually when my son started watching Simpsons maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this episode came on and that hallway gag happened, and he immediately started killing himself laughing, which then got me to start killing myself laughing until we couldn't breathe. And he still brings that up to this day. Remember that time we watched the Simpsons episode with Barney's face at the end of the hall?
That's great. I don't have any touching moments like that. Oh, actually, no, maybe I do, but maybe we'll do another top 5 episode down the line when we need space to. We'll see. Yeah, this is a great episode. I love how they do the flashback to Ned's parents, and they're not religious at all. Like you'd at least expect them to be, you know, somewhat traditional, but they're just beatniks. "We tried nothing, man, and we're all out of ideas." I love that they do follow through with this, and later they go, like, they're older and they're still beatniks. So I guess they, even though this was obviously supposed to be a one-off gag, so good for them. And then the nurse calls the Dr. Foster in the middle of the night. "Ned Flanders, are you sure? May God have mercy on us all. How do you need me at the hospital? Where are my shoes?" In the den. May God have mercy on us all." And then at the very end, Ned gets cured, and he's trying to reassure of everybody how cured he is. "And if you really take me off, I'm going to run you down with my car." He's easy there, Ned. Oakley dokley. No, you got some good choices here, Kevin. You do all right.
So I guess we kind of hit on this before, but overall season wise, what's your sweet spot?
You know, I'll watch. I won't poo-poo most Simpsons episodes, but, you know, I'll settle between 6 and 9. And no, not a typo. Even because I think even when it's tapering off a bit, season 9's got some great ones. Like, in addition to ones we talked about, like Homer versus the State of New York, which was a favorite one for a while for me. The Principal and the Pauper. Yes, everyone hates this episode. A lot of people hate this episode, but I think it's great, no matter what everyone says about it.
I didn't know that one was disliked.
Even Harry Shearer, who plays Skinner, hates this episode.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I think it's great.
What's the criticism?
People don't like that they made up a gimmick where Skinner wasn't real, only to make it go away at the end.
They needed to see that through.
I don't know. I thought it was funny, and we got the touching moments from Agnes, who really liked the Skinner we come to know over the years. Anyway, I mean, I felt like that was the point. And we got that other part where he's trying to be the Barker in the capital city. Oh yes, come see capitalist cities' nakedest ladies. They're not even wearing a smile. I mean, how can you hate that one? I mean, Trouble with Trillions, a lot of good ones. But what about you, Kevin? What would you call?
I probably would land closer on between 4 and 8, but I think it's worth noting that there's really a bell curve out of there. I don't even first season obviously is radically different than we would later get, but I don't think there's. I still enjoy most of the episodes out of season 1. So I think it kind of gradually ramped up until it hit 4. It was high until 8. And then from 8, the same thing, starting with 9, they were starting to lose quality, but it's not like it immediately plummeted. Once we get a little bit, probably 13 is right about where I start getting a little bit eye rolly when it comes on. And again, mostly because of Homer, because they need to make, the show became much more Homer centric, obviously, and they made Homer a lot stupider than he was, with much less redeeming qualities than he had kind of in the heyday.
So, you got any episodes you don't like then, outright?
Speaking of season 1, I do have one that I actually really don't like, which is Life in the Fast Lane. It's the one where Marge was having the fling with Jacques.
I actually like this episode, well, as much as you can like a season 1 episode.
See, I think it just, for one, and obviously, again, being season 1, they were kind of finding their footing, but it just seems kind of awkward in retrospect because it's so out of character for Marge to have a moment like that. And even just the color palette that they use for that episode, like there's kind of the one like sequence near his place or whatever. It feels very off and uncomfortable. And I did also make a note. This is where Steve yells at me. I'm not the biggest Treehouse of Horror episode fan. I don't specifically dislike them. I won't turn them off if they come on, but I've always felt kind of indifferent, where I feel like, most Simpsons fans really like the Treehouse of Horror episodes. It's kind of stupid. I almost don't like how they're just like, when they take Simpsons and they make it into being like a non-canon episode.
You know what? I'm already going to go pick on you for not liking Life in the Fast Lane just because Jacques is there and he talks to you about brunch. Who doesn't want to listen to Al Brooks talk to us about brunch? It's not quite breakfast and it's not quite lunch, but it comes with a slice of cantaloupe, and it's not everything you quite get at breakfast, but we get a good meal. Come on.
I didn't want to hear about brunch.
I miss brunch. But anyway, if I'm going to pick out an episode that's not so great, I would be remiss if I didn't, go for the low-hanging fruit of our current day, which was The Musk That Fell to Earth, wherein everyone's super favorite, super genius billionaire, Elon Musk, was paying to have a lot of spots in different shows at this time. Not just this one, but here, it's a 22-minute ad for Elon Musk, not Tesla. Elon Musk. He just shows up in Springfield, and you have a normally on top of it Lisa like praising him for doing something with electric cars, and he's like vaguely threatened by Mr. Burns for things he's not actually doing, and then in the end he goes into space and is disappointed that he can't be Homer's friend anymore, because then they'd have to pay him more. Like, it's barely an episode at all, really.
Now, admittedly, you have a much better reasoning for not liking that episode than I had for Treehouse of Horror.
Oh no, Kevin, you're fired, Kevin.
Oh, so we're not talking about we're not doing Simpsons anymore.
No, we're not talking about Simpsons anymore. In fact, you can all join us next time when Steve and Kevin talk about the Simpsons movie and seeing if that holds up. Have a good night.